Coming in at number 3, we have Close Enough. If you are a fan of regular show, you will hands down love this series, mostly due to the fact that it is made by the same people who made regular show. And so with Close Enough, it's basically about how you're in your middle ages and you are kind of missing that phase of your former life, and so you do weird things to capture that young self within you. It's not basically a midlife crisis, it's more like we're getting old and I don't like being old, but we're gonna deal with it anyway. And I really do like that. I really grew attached to all of the characters in this show and all of the wacky things they went through. And of course, because this show is just the adult version of regular show, I do love all the way. I love how the first half of the episode is just a normal setup, and then the last half is just the most bizarre thing you'll ever see. I love how it still carries that same energy. That being said, this show has been cursed from day one. This show was originally meant to come out in 2017, where the creator of regular show, J.G. Quintel, originally wanted to end regular show in 2017, which he did, and then move on to Close Enough immediately. And Close Enough was going to air on Adult Swim. The show never saw the light of day until 2020, and instead of airing on Adult Swim, it aired on HBO Max, which I guess would be the better alternative. And so the show was able to run for 3 successful seasons before being cancelled in 2022, which is the sad part, because I really did like this show. Again, it's the best adult comedy out there. This show had very smart writing, very clear respect for its audience and the medium of animation, and it very much was just having fun with itself. When's the last time a show was meant to just simply exist, having fun with itself, trying to be relatable to its audience, or giving relatable stories to its audience in the most bizarre way possible? However, because HBO Max, much like Netflix, went on an animation purge in 2022, this show was one of the shows that just got completely cut of all things. This show really had a lot of heart and a lot of talent put into it. However, I guess if it's any consolation, 2 things did come out of the final season. Of the final season that released. That being, we did have one of the characters go into the real world and basically meet the creators of the show. So at least we got that concept early before it got scrapped. And another thing is that this show mostly operates on cartoon physics, basically. This show is not serialized in the slightest. Like, where the events of one episode do not affect the next episode at all. And so you could watch this show at random, however you want, in whatever order. It really does not matter in the grand scheme of things. Which, again, for an adult comedy being episodic, again, it's kind of a rare thing these days. However, I do wonder if at any point in time they would have gone the regular show route and make the show more serialized as it went along. It's really hard to say. I don't know what their plan was to end this series, but it is sad that we will never get an ending for this series. Again, Close Enough, go watch it if you haven't already. It's a really great adult comedy that actually, again, respects its audience and the medium it exists in. At number 2, we have glitchtechs. And let me just start off by saying, this show has so much respect for its characters and audience. I always fume whenever I think of this show, mostly due to the fact that it never got a conclusion and it never had an ending. Because this show treated its audience so well, and we never see it again. You're telling me shows like Big Mouth can continue to run rampant in the streets with the kind of humor it's giving, but this genuinely good cartoon gets cancelled simply for being too good? Excuse me? Hello? Where do I begin? Where do I begin singing the praises of this show? Honestly, where do I begin? Let's start with the animation. How about that? Alright? The premiere of this show, the animation there is almost movie level quality. And of course, while the rest of the show does have to cheapen itself, the fact that it had that strong of a start is just so good. And like, the action in this show is so good. The scenes just pop up with the movements and the different and the different unique ways they fight video game characters or like bring video game elements into the real life is just so brilliant. Oh my god. And the characters we go on the adventures with, they are just so well written. They are so beautifully well written, so well integrated to the story, and just so amazing to watch. These guys are just pure fun to hang out with. Like, the characters are all written so well, and it's such a nice, diverse cast that doesn't feel forced in any way, shape, or form, which would even lead me into the writing. The writing of this show is so good. So many movies and shows that are about video games or revolve around pop culture things, they try so hard to appeal and relate to their audience that they forget why their audience was drawn to these things in the first place. And glitchtechs never once lose sight of that. Yeah, it's a video game show, but they never once tried to cram in corny references or cringy dialogue. They actually treat the plots with a level of respect. And what's even better is that the people who write this show actually do have a knowledge of video games. They have a knowledge of video games and how they work, and why these kids will know about this and that feature of a video game, how it affects the programming of this creature, and how they deal with it. It's so good. It's so good. And I'm sorry, I just kind of went on another thing. For the people who don't know, glitchtechs is basically just about a bunch of kids who fight video games that come to life. Think of it like Ghostbusters, but for video games. And again, the writing and the knowledge of video games that goes on in this thing is just so expertly written, so beautifully done and detailed. It's great. Like the amount of like references they make in the show to video games, or like the video game mechanics that they use in the show that they have such a respect for both mediums, animation and video games. This is hands down the best video game show to ever exist. Not just like based on a video game adaptation like Sonic or Pac-Man. Like it is just hands down the best video game thing ever. Like I don't think I've seen this much level of respect for two mediums merge like this, and it is beautiful. Miko is also just my favorite character. She's my queen, she's my savior, she's my goddess. All bow down and hail Lady Queen Miko. Like this show has already, despite being cancelled, become one of my favorite TV shows of all time. There is just so much love I have for this series, simply due to the fact that it has so much love to give out about the things it's talking about, and I'm just baffled as to why more shows don't do this. However, we have reached that part of the video where we also have to talk about the things that got this show cancelled, or what happened to get this show cancelled. So, Nickelodeon, who are the main people who made this show, like the animators and whatnot, come from Nickelodeon, they did not want to air this show on their network. For whatever reason, I don't know. They just didn't want to air this show on the main Nickelodeon TV network. So they signed a contract with Netflix to have Netflix distribute this show on their streaming service. And in the contract, it was also said that this show would get 30 episodes before Nickelodeon would either have to renew a contract to make more seasons, or just before it ends in its entirety, which is like fine, because each season of the show has 10 episodes. So I could live with this show living to its third season and the story wrapping up there, or Nickelodeon could again renew the contract and give us like 3 more seasons if they wanted to. The problem is, this show never even got to 30 episodes. As of recording, glitchtechs only has 20 episodes. 19 if you want to like count the episode list Netflix has, but because the premiere of the show is 2 episodes in one, or it's like a special, like a double episode, yeah, it's 20 episodes, meaning those last 10 episodes still haven't seen the light of day. As of now, they're just storyboarded. Nickelodeon hasn't given their animators the go to animate the show. All they have is a script and the storyboard for the season. So the season is basically done. They just need to animate it, really. They just need to like add color to it and basically release it to Netflix. But Nickelodeon is still refusing to like give the animators the go ahead. And if anything, it seems like they're just biding their time till the contract runs out. I don't know. Someone has obviously like violated the terms on the contract, and that's just already a violation of human rights, right? They're refusing to give us more of this show. But it does seem that glitchtechs will never see the light of day again, as it doesn't even seem to be on Nickelodeon's priority. I mean, this show apparently wasn't even good enough to be on their main network for them, so that already just speaks to the level of disrespect it's getting. And it is sad, because from what I've seen of those storyboards, they do look like they're gonna bring more dimension to the characters in the glitchtechs universe, and they're obviously going to advance the story even further, giving it a more serialized take, unlike the episodic style the first season was going for. And I'm happy that they basically already did plan to give characters a lot more bigger arcs as the show went on. I'm just upset that Nickelodeon kind of seems to want to sweep this show under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist, which is sad, because this really is one of their best cartoons that they've ever made, period. I don't know why they wouldn't want to sign off on it. So as it stands, until Nickelodeon signs that contract, or until they give the animators a go-ahead, we probably will never see season 3, and as such, it may seem like the show will probably get a rushed ending if we ever do get a season 3, because Nickelodeon is 100% not going to renew their contract with Netflix. Not to mention that Netflix didn't even bother to advertise this show when it was coming out, which is sad, because they can advertise less than shows like the Fast and Furious show, whoever asked for that, but not actual quality like this. So it is sad to see glitchtechs go. It really is a revolutionary show. Go watch it if you haven't already, and I don't know what else to say about it. It respects video games, it respects gamers, it respects animation, and it respects its audience. It is so good. Honestly, I wonder as to how this show even came to be, to exist in like this day and age. And again, with a great diverse cast, amazing writing, beautiful concept and story, It is one of my favorite shows of all time. And again, it's sad to see it go, but go watch it and give it some love, please. Also, this theme song slaps. Now, before we get to the number one spot, I figured it's time we talk about some honorable mentions, shows that did get cancelled. However, where they left off, I'm really not upset about where they left off. I'm honestly kind of happy with the way the show concluded, or I'm not too upset about it. I mean, it would be cool to see it again, but I don't think we need to unless it feels like the studio behind these shows just want to milk these properties. As such, these shows did get cancelled. I would like to see more of them, but where they ended, I'm really not too upset about it. So I figured I'd just talk about them on this list. The first honorable mention I want to talk about is Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And before I talk about the show itself, this theme song. This show goes so hard. It goes so hard even when it has no reason to. It is so amazing. I could sit here and talk about Earth's Mightiest Heroes forever, but long story short, yeah, it's also one of my favorite TV shows of all time. This show is sick, it is crazy, it is cool, it is loyal to the comics. I don't know what else to say about this show that I don't know what to say already. This show finds a way to organically introduce all of the stuff from the comics in a nice, cohesive way. Black Panther, the Skrulls, the Galactus, Captain Marvel, every wacky thing that you think would happen, happens. And again, this show did all of this stuff before the MCU. This show came out from 2010 to 2013, if I am not wrong. And it kind of did all of the stuff the MCU did before the MCU. Also, just, like, again, the character designs in this show are just amazing. They managed to borrow them from the comics and still give them that serious edge to them. Black Widow, Maria Hill, Nick Fury, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Captain America, which is funny because they also made Nick Fury in this show black, much like his MCU counterpart, even though he wasn't black in the show. I mean, hell, this show did King the Conqueror before the MCU even got to him. I do feel that a lot of what this show did were the blueprints for the MCU going forward, in all honesty. I really do think this show, I really do think that the writers behind the Marvel projects now had to take a lot of inspiration from Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and if that's the case, I could not be more happier. Again, there's a lot of stuff this show did right. I could talk about it all day, but let's just get down to brass tacks. Why was this show cancelled? So this show only had about 2 seasons and I think about 52 episodes in total. And it got cancelled by Disney, of all people, the same people who made the show, mostly because it was too far from what the MCU was. At the time, the MCU hadn't formed its own identity yet. This show got cancelled in 2013. So at the time, the MCU only had movies up to like Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World around there. And so the first Avengers movie had already happened. Now, because the first Avengers movie had happened, a lot of new fans got brought into the MCU, and Disney wanted to appeal to these new fans. And they couldn't use Earth's Mightiest Heroes to do that, mostly because Earth's Mightiest Heroes had diverted so much from what the MCU had been. Earth's Mightiest Heroes was adapting more from the comics, and had become much of what later MCU is. If you go and watch Earth's Mightiest Heroes now, you will see some similarities between that and current day MCU, but back then, they were two completely different entities. And so Disney wanted a property that would introduce newer fans to the MCU in a more organic way. So they created Avengers Assemble. This show was more or less meant to mimic the MCU one for one with the character designs and the villains they fought and the adventures they went on, while Earth's Mightiest Heroes wasn't that. And so because we couldn't have 2 Avengers shows at the same time, Disney cancelled Earth's Mightiest Heroes in favor of Avengers Assemble. And while I don't hate Avengers Assemble, I do respect it for a lot of the things it did. It is kind of sucky that we never got an actual conclusion to Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That being said, we also kind of did. You see, the thing is, the creators of Earth's Mightiest Heroes did know that their show would get cancelled at some point. And so, believe it or not, they actually made an ending for the show in case this event happened. So, Season 2 of Earth's Mightiest Heroes did do a lot of things that Season 5 of Teen Titans did, where the series finale had 2 series finales to it instead of 1. The first season finale of Season 2 was following the Skrull arc, the Skrull versus the Avengers arc, and they actually gave that arc a proper resolution. And the second finale we got was Galactus. Now, You could call Galactus the 11th hour villain, as he was never referenced in the entire series prior to this. However, according to the writer's notes, he was always meant to be the villain of Season 3. But seeing as they were never going to get the chance to make a Season 3, they decided to bring him in for Season 2. So Season 2 ended with Galactus coming in to basically eat the Earth like he does in the comics. And so the Avengers all have to band together to fight against Galactus, essentially. And they do end up defeating him. A lot of people will call this more or less a cop-out or a rushed ending, as it was originally meant to be as this story was originally meant to span an entire season, and the fact that they only borrowed the season finale from that season and brought it to season 2, a lot of people will call that a cop-out. However, I look at it more as making the best of a bad situation, as they knew they were not going to get the chance to make a season 3, so they decided to bring in the series finale early. And hey, we still got all the cool heroes we were able to meet up with here. Not just the Avengers, but Black Panther, Spiderman, who is done surprisingly well in this series despite only showing up for 2 episodes, and of course, the X-Men. Yeah, we get characters like Wolverine coming into the fray to fight Galactus. It's a really nice big crossover ending, and I do think it was a nice send-off for the show. So while I am not really hard-pressed for season 3, I do like that they were able to cram in that finale somewhere other than it never seeing the light of day at all. Alright, we're going to do a lightning round here. So, we're going to talk about a bunch of Sonic series I used to watch as a kid and what I think of them and whether or not they should continue. The first one is Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom had 2 seasons with a total of like 100-ish episodes, if I remember, and yeah, they got cancelled before they could make a season 3. However, with the way season 2 ended, it more or less was a conclusive ending to the series. They were just kind of blue balling us, pretending that there was gonna be a season 3. Also, Styx is hands down the best part of this show, and she has easily become my favorite character in the entire Sonic canon. And it's frustrating that she only exists in the Boom universe. I really do hope that we get to see Styx appear more in future Sonic media, future TV shows or games or whatever they do. It is sad that, again, we'll never see her again. I love her character so much. She's like the best written character, the funniest, and the most interesting to follow. So, next, we have Sonic Sat AM, which was another show I watched as a kid that came out in the 90s, if I'm not wrong. And Sonic Sat AM is, to this date, hands down the best Sonic show to ever exist. Even better than what we're getting in the current day. Mostly because it took its story seriously. It had a more darker feel to it and slightly more mature. Of course, still, it's a kid's show, so of course it was more kid-friendly. But this was a show that came out in the 90s about a video game character having a serialized story. When did we ever see something like this happen before? Now, this series, as far as I can tell, was based on the Archie Comics Sonic, which I haven't read. I only read like snippets here and there. But this show, for what it was a really good show. Now, this show only ran for 2 seasons, I think about 52 episodes, and it had a really good finale with them defeating Dr. Eggman. Of course, they did promise a season 3 with a new villain coming up to defeat Sonic. My only issue with that is because this show got cancelled after season 2, we never got to find out who this villain was. An easy fix for this one, much like the Teen Titans finale, remove the last scene. As I said with the Teen Titans finale, that last episode didn't really help, as it just kind of blue-balled its audience into thinking we were going to get more seasons. Avengers helped because it brought its series finale forward. With this show, it already had a series finale. They defeated Dr. Eggman, fireworks were in the sky, Sonic and Princess Sally kissed. It was the end of the season. So this season kind of already had its series finale, and it was promising a new villain despite Eggman having been defeated and the world being saved. So if it were up to me, I would probably cut out that last scene and just end the series with the Sonic and Sally moment, and that way no one has to ask what happened to this show later on. But what it was a nice show with a proper conclusion, and again, you never really got to see that in these type of cartoons way back in the 90s. And then, much like Sonic Sat AM, we had Sonic Underground, which was also a show released in the late 90s. And it followed more or less the same kind of tone story that Sonic Sat AM was going for. Eggman has taken over the world, we're basically in a robot apocalypse, that kind of stuff. Except they've changed a lot of the Sonic lore. Sonic is now a royal, he has parents, a mom specifically, he has sisters. They turned Amy into Sonia, his sister. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, it's not a wonder why this show didn't last more than 1 season. The 1 season we got had about like 50 episodes, and it was very episodic. Like, there was a serialized continuing story for like the first 6 to 10 episodes, and then they just abandoned that for like episodic kid stuff for the rest of the season. So the show never got a conclusive ending, but at the same time it felt like it barely had a story to go on. This is definitely the weakest of the 3 I have seen, mostly because it barely has a story attaching itself together, And on top of that, it just diverts so much from the Sonic lore, it doesn't even count as the same show anymore. Like now Sonic plays music with his siblings and they use this music to defeat Eggman, and again they're trying to find their mom so that they can take back the throne. It is one big mess. It's an entertaining mess, but a big one. And again, you do feel like some of your time is wasted, mostly due to the fact that there doesn't seem to be a direction this show wants to go in. It started off with a really great idea and then just kind of lost itself along the way. So I would like it to get a conclusion one of these days, but I'm not dying for a Sonic Underground conclusion. Mostly due to the fact, again, it just diverts so much from the Sonic canon. It's just an entirely separate entity on its own. Like, it's barely recognizable. So I understand why no one watched this show, let alone wants to see it come back. However, I will give points for this show's theme song. It does go kind of hard.
I long for my children, but I have to wait. To act too soon could seal their fate.
Alright, I've held you guys hostage long enough. Let's talk about the #1 show I absolutely want to see come back and have a proper conclusion to the series. Mostly because this show just works so hard for its audience. What else, man? What else can I sing about this show that I haven't sung before? What else? What other praises can I give this show before I eventually just end up collapsing on the floor because of run out of voice? I've said it before and I'll say it again. This show is the best version of Spider-Man, the best interpretation of the character that is loyal to the comics while at the same time very much being its own thing. I don't know what else to say about Spectacular Spider-Man that I haven't said before. The character designs are simple yet effective. The action scenes are so mind-blowingly creative. I just want to watch them over and over again. This show really told me how cool of a character Spider-Man is and why he is so beloved. And the fact that we never got a conclusion upsets me so much. Did you know, and I guess now I have to talk about it. First of all, before I talk about how this show got cancelled, I will talk about why I love this show. Actually, I'm going to show you. For those who don't know, a couple months back, I made a video talking about my favorite Spectacular Spider-Man episode. I will leave a link to that down in the description and comments below if you are interested to know what Spectacular Spider-Man episode I really love and why I think it cements the character as being one of my favorites of all time. But yeah, I really love this show. It's so good. The characters, the story, the writing, they're all really great. And I really love how every decision Peter makes affects his life either as Spider-Man or as Peter Parker. It really is a cool dynamic. Now, let's talk about how this show got cancelled or why it got cancelled. The original plan for this show was for it to have 5 seasons and a TV movie, basically. So this show was going to get 5 seasons and a TV movie to wrap it all up and basically just kind of conclude the story of Spider-Man, which kind of upsets me because to this date, I think we only have one Spider-Man show that actually concluded without getting cancelled, that being Ultimate Spider-Man. Every other Spider-Man show got cancelled. So the fact that this show did have a plan for the long run to have an ending is kind of sad in retrospect, but whatever. So, after season 2 of Spectacular Spider-Man got released, Disney acquired the rights to Spider-Man. More so, they acquired the TV rights to Spider-Man and a bit of the merchandising rights. Meaning, Sony only had the movie rights to their name. And since Sony made Spectacular Spider-Man a TV show, they no longer had the rights to continue it. Disney did offer to continue making the show with Sony. However, Sony wasn't very trusting of Disney, and they were right. Disney did not want to continue Spectacular Spider-Man at all. They instead wanted to make their own show, which, much like Avengers Assemble, would tie into the MCU. This being Ultimate Spider-Man. And much like Avengers Assemble, Ultimate Spider-Man was just Spider-Man crossovering with every single Marvel character in existence. And because Spectacular wasn't doing that, Spectacular was very much its own thing, trying to make Spider-Man a standalone hero, it wasn't going to stand by Disney's guidelines. So they cancelled the show after the second season, scrapped season 3 through 5 and the movie plots, and came up with Ultimate Spider-Man, which to this date is probably the only Spider-Man show to actually have a conclusion. So kind of ironic if you think about it. But yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man never got an ending, which again is very much sad in retrospect. I really do wish that one day Sony will bring life to this series. I don't know how. They're never gonna do it. Honestly, at this point in time, Spectacular coming back is an impossible thing to happen because not only have 2 Spider-Man shows come out since then, but Disney is also releasing a new Spider-Man show next year, Spider-Man Freshman Year, which is kind of like tied to the MCU. Not really, it's in another universe, but still canon to the MCU. But it means that we're never gonna get Spectacular Spider-Man ever again, mostly because they're so busy making these new Spider-Man shows. So yeah, we're not gonna get Spectacular Spider-Man season 3, but in a perfect world, you know, Sony and Disney worked together to make season 3 through 5 and the bonus movie. Or we just get season 3, which is basically just a quick conclusion to wrap up the story, kind of like how they did Samurai Jack season 5. So yeah, I would really like to see Spectacular Spider-Man come back. It is a show I love very dearly, one of my favorite shows of all time. And it is sad that it will never see the light of day again, especially with the cool ideas it was going to bring in, such as Carnage and Scorpion and Hydra Man. All the cool stuff that you were going to bring in just will never see the light of day. So it is sad. And again, it's a shame because this show did give us some of the best versions of these characters. It gave us the best version of Peter, in my opinion. It gave us the best version of Sandman, the best version of Venom, the best version of the Rhino, I would say, to an extent. It really gave development to all these characters. Hell, it gave us the best version of Flash Thompson because this show even did the whole bully slowly becomes friend. I even mentioned in my favorite episode review of Spectacular Spider-Man that Flash really did grow as a character, and I would have really liked to see the man he would become by the end of the series, but of course we wouldn't get that, sadly. So yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man is a really great show. Go watch it. Now we've reached that part of the video where normally I'll give an outro, but before I leave, I do think some of these shows you should definitely go check out yourself and go give them a watch if you haven't already, because they really do deserve your attention. Yeah, they're cancelled, and yeah, you'll never get to see their conclusion, but these shows really are quality. They were the peak of writing and what animation could do at the time, or at least what an animated show could do at the time with the source material and the writing was given. And I do think these shows were really instrumental to helping kids grow up and understanding what quality is. So yeah, go watch these shows, and and I will give you the places where you can find them, at least to my knowledge. With the honorable mentions like Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, that's on Disney Plus, and the Sonic series. I know Sonic Boom is on Netflix, all 2 seasons of them, but I don't know where you can find Sonic Sat AM. Sonic Underground was on Netflix last time I checked, so you can go check that out if you want to. And for the shows on this list, such as Pac-Man, both seasons are on Netflix. The Captain Underpants show is on Netflix. Last Kids on Earth is on Netflix. Teen Titans, I don't know where to find it as of yet, so sorry about that. Inside Job is on Netflix. Close Enough, the first 2 seasons are on Netflix, and the 3rd season is on HBO Max, or you can just go watch all 3 seasons on HBO Max. Glitchtechs is on Netflix. Spectacular Spider-Man is on Netflix, and yeah, that's about it. So really, if you want to watch all these shows, get a Netflix account, clearly. It will help you a lot. But yeah, anyways, thank you so very much for watching my video, guys. Sorry if I kind of went off the rails, if I took too long. I just really love these shows, or I miss them, and I would like to see them come back in some shape or form, because they really do deserve it. They are quality of their time, and it's a shame that future generations won't get this. I really do feel bad for the generation that grew up with Spider-Man 2017 instead of shows like Spectacular Spider-Man, the 90s Spider-Man, or hell, even Ultimate Spider-Man, because those were more loyal to the character than Spider-Man 2017. I hate that show so much. Maybe one day I'll give it a review, a horrible, scathing review. But as such, not really. I want to stay as far away from that show as possible. I haven't seen it since the finale came out, and I don't plan to go back. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. I have been Captain Phoenix. Tell me, what cancelled show have you watched would you like to see come back? A cancelled live action or animated show that never got its proper conclusion, or was unjustly cancelled, and that you want to see the story conclude? Let me know these shows, your thoughts on them, and leave them down in the comments below. I really want to know what you guys like to watch, because these are the shows I like to watch. So yeah, thank you so very much for watching, guys. I've been Captain Phoenix, and with that, I will see you in another universe. Goodbye, my Rangers.